All right, folks, so I thought I would make a quick video here to show you how to do endospore stains. So obviously, we want to glove up first. And work with our bacteria, of course, and our inoculating loop. All right, and so obviously none of this stuff is on for me. I'm just going to kind of demo what's supposed to happen, and then you guys can do it. Also, there's a time, you have to wait for 5 minutes on this one, and so I don't want to make the video that long. But essentially, you do your smear prep, right? So drop of water, use your inoculating loop to put your bacteria on the slide. Let it dry, right? And then use your clothespin as a guide, right, to heat fix for about 5 seconds, and then you've got your heat fix slide. Then what happens, so you'll see I've got this hot plate in front of me with this really small beaker of water, should only be about 1/3 of the way full. You're going to put that beaker on a hot plate and just let it kind of get, turn it on and let it get kind of steamy warm. You don't want it boiling, but you just want it kind of nice and steamy warm, because the endospores, if you'll remember, they're really tough. And so in order to get the stain in the endospore so that you can actually see it, you have to heat them. And so the way we're going to heat them is to use the steam that comes off the water to heat the bottom of the slide, and then stain them that way, right? So heat fix the slide. What you'll do is take it and you'll put it on top of the beaker. The water's going to be steamy warm and come up through the top, or come up underneath. Then what you're going to do is take a small piece of a paper towel, right? Very small piece, just enough to cover your smear prep, right? So a very small piece of paper towel, right? You'll put that on top of the smear, and then you'll take some malachite green and just drip it on, right? If this will come up, right? So just start dripping the malachite green on. And the paper towel will absorb it, and that's what you want to happen. And you just kind of want to let it sit there. You don't want to put so much malachite green on that it's going to drip off the sides. It's just going to absorb into the paper towel, and the paper towel is sitting on top of the smear prep. What you kind of have to watch for, because this has to sit for 5 minutes. Once you put the malachite green on, you got a 5-minute time span there. So what will happen is the malachite green will start to dry off. And you'll kind of notice on the edges it'll start to get, it'll kind of look metallic. And so as it does that, you just want to add another drop, right? Just to kind of make sure that it doesn't get too dry, because if it gets too dry, then it's not going to work. And so you'll continue to let that happen for 5 minutes. You'll continue to add a drop if you need to, right? So pay attention to that. You'll continue to add a drop for 5 minutes, at which point you'll remove the slide. It's not going to be too hot that you can't touch it with your fingers, but what I would suggest is maybe pick it up with your fingers and then grab it with a clothespin. I don't tell you to grab it with the clothespin here, because a lot of times what happens is students will go to grab it and they'll knock it off. So maybe just grab it with your fingers quickly, and then use the clothespin to hold it. All right, the next thing you want to do is you want to get rid of that piece of paper towel on top. A couple ways you can do that. One, if you want to take it over to the trash and just scrape it off into the trash, that's fine. Don't put it down my sinks though, right? So if you want to scrape it off into your sink, like your little Tupperware sink like I'm doing here, that's fine too. Just make sure that that piece of paper towel ends up in the trash and not down my sink. Right? Then you would want to incinerate that, right? So then it's kind of back to like what it was with a regular stain. So remember, this has sat here for 5 minutes. It's going to be cool now. You've taken the paper off. You're just going to indirectly rinse the malachite green off. And so at this point, the malachite green is relatively water soluble. And so if it's in any of the actual bacteria, it doesn't penetrate the bacteria too well. But if it is there, it'll rinse out with water. But if it's got into the spores, it can't rinse it out, and so it'll stay there. So if you were to stop and look now, you would see, if there's spores there, you would see a bunch of green and not much else. And so what we do is a counter stain. Right, so we take safranin again, put a few drops of safranin on the slide. Let that sit for 30 to 45 seconds. Right, indirectly rinse that. Right, then bibulous paper to dry that off. And then put it under the microscope so you can see it. And so what should happen is, if you have endospores present, you'll see them as kind of these little green ovals. And the vegetative bacteria that actually produce the endospores will be pink. Right? So pink bacteria, green endospores. And that's how you do an endospore stain. Pretty different than the other ones because of the heat addition, but still only 2 stains to use and relatively straightforward.